I think that's different.
Yeah, my notice definitely was different. Instead of saying okay, I said okay. Or instead of saying okay, I said I got it or something.
What?
Yeah. What is Zoom doing?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's like we're going into our second fall of the pandemic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they're trying to spice it up for us.
Maybe I mean, this is a constant conversation, so they're doing a good job.
Yeah, someone's definitely earning a living over at Zoom. I don't know, whoever you are, little programmer behind the voice, but thanks for keeping it
Mm-hmm.
real, I guess. I don't know.
Keeping it interesting.
Keeping it interesting, yes.
They're doing a good job.
Yeah. Hi.
How are you doing?
Good. Happy Friday. We're recording on Friday instead of Tuesday this week,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
a happy time.
Happy Friday.
Yeah. So, getting these things going, what did you think of the latest?
I love this book so much. And so
You do.
it is so incredible right now. I stopped at the last thing I read is it's Cindy's first day hanging out with, how did I forget her name?
Nicole.
Nicole. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. And she's at Nicole's house
Yeah.
after having surgery.
Yep.
And that is where I'm at. I love it. It's so great. I'm so happy they're together. Like there was actual joy in my heart that they got to be together and hang out and be on that same vibration. Because I mean, even though they just met each other, they seem extremely close.
Yeah, like that kind of goes into like our earlier conversation with sibling dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
Um I had asked you, okay, what is this compulsory need for siblings to need to like, okay, the actual wording was sit on each other, but like bother each other. Like, where is that encoded in our brains? Like,
Mm-hmm.
do we just like pop out knowing, oh, this person is my sibling, I am going to bother them? But on the flip side, like, since I don't have any siblings, I'm going to ask you, the person with the siblings, how would you describe a sibling bond?
Oh, what a great question. I think it's so different for each pair or how many siblings. Some things that might be some things that might that definitely go into it, I think, is definitely how you're raised. Like, how do your parents raise you? Do they raise you to be close, or do they raise you to not be close? And that can be unintentional. um I think age makes a difference too, because if you're like 2 years apart or 1 year apart, that's going to be very different than if you're like 10, 11 years apart. And then personality plays a big role into that, because you could just be like two very different people who have nothing in common, or you could be two very similar people. I'm saying two because I only have one brother, but you could be a collective group who has a lot in common, or you could have nothing in common and just have like your familial bond together. But to actually answer your question, what goes into a sibling bond, or what makes it a sibling bond? Mm, I think it's just the love has to be there. And you can show love in very different ways, but I think that love has to be there, that this is my, like, unconditional love, that this is my sibling. So even if I'm mad at them, they're still my sibling. Or even if I'm really, really happy or proud of them, they're still my sibling.
Like, I just, as someone that doesn't have any, well, who knows if I have a sibling or not, But as someone that doesn't have any known siblings, I don't have any adoptive siblings, I've always been fascinated by like the notion of siblings, in the genetic mirrors, which we've already been talking about throughout this book, and B, just through that relationship. I've been a very long observer of siblings because I feel like everyone in my life has a sibling, with the exception of a few, like, what are we called? Only children. It's been a week.
Welcome to Friday night.
With the exception of only children. And so I think that it's a very, very interesting thing to observe. Like, I had a professor in college that did a bunch of twin studies. And I know that like in like sociology, psychology, and social work world, like twin studies are also like super, super popular. Because like in most cases you'll have like if they're identical twins, you will have an exact, like, they're literally two people that have the exact same DNA. And a lot of the times they will be raised in a very similar fashion, usually raised as a pair. And so like doing studies on them, but I also feel like there's always this I don't know what the word for it is, but I'm gonna call it the parent trap effect.
Okay, I love where this is going.
The parent trap effect, where like two siblings or twins can be raised in completely separate environments, completely separate like circumstances, and still they can still vibe, which is what I think that we're seeing here. They're not twins. Cindy and Nicole are not twins, but like they can still vibe with each other, which I think is like really, really, really neat.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I mean, because even like as their husbands are watching, just like watching these interactions happen, this first time meeting with these sisters, they're seeing similar mannerisms. Like I think we talked about mannerisms maybe up too early, because it's definitely very apparent this week. But I mean, I completely agree with your point. I think distance can't sever that sibling bond.
Yeah, like there is actually a documentary. I haven't seen it yet, so if anyone has seen it, let us know. But it's called Twinsters, and it's about two Korean adoptees who were separated at birth. Oh yeah, there was another show, Sister Sister. That one. That one was a good one too.
A classic, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's on Disney Plus now. I want to go see it. If you need my login, let me know. But I just feel like that kind of a trope, that parent trap effect, is like I feel like it's a very prominent like storytelling type of a device that has been used a lot. But it's like one of those questions, like, does art imitate life? Does life imitate art, or whatever? Because we're seeing it in this book and how it plays out, and how Nicole and Cindy are literally just finding out about the other one's existence.
Yeah. And the fact that they were able to pick up and they're writing every single day, and now Cindy is visiting Nicole, and then you can look at that because Nicole and Jessica aren't that close. So it's like there is that sibling, but there's something a little extra with Nicole and Cindy that isn't there, at least currently, with Jessica.
So the parent trap effect. Um, I'm curious to see like with like groups of siblings too. Like because it always seems to be with just two siblings that these storytelling tropes come from with the parent trap effect. Like if there are multiple siblings in a sibling group, I would be very interested as to see whether or not like um if they were all raised differently. I find like the statistically speaking, I don't think that triplets would be separated at birth like a lot of twins um for adoption, but like I I'm sure there might be some sort of case. I don't know. I'm rambling at this point. But like groups of siblings, not even like triplets or anything like that. Just groups of siblings being raised differently, um seeing like the relationship between them. um I I'm very curious.
Yeah.
Like I said, as someone without siblings that I know of, I am a lifelong observer of siblings and sibling dynamics, and I find it very, very fascinating.
Yeah. I definitely think a group of more than two would be quite an experience and it would yield quite the results because I think that would be very different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Like I don't know. It just siblings just are so cool to me. And like I say that, like I said, with as someone without a sibling, I'm sure that you and your sibling have had your disagreements.
Hmm. That is fair to say.
So there's always a flip side to it.
Yeah, and I'm interested in only children. Like, of course, when I've had my disagreements with my brother, I'm like, dang.
Technically, you were an only child for a little bit.
2 years. It was a great time.
Your brother listened to this.
We're about to find out.
Like I just that's just so it's just so fascinating to me, like how their relationship was able to just bloom under these just crazy circumstances.
Yes. It
Like
feels like the craziest of circumstances. And Nicole did mention that when Cindy got pregnant, she was like, I don't know if Nicole was her first call, but she was definitely one of the first calls that she made when she figured out she was pregnant. She was like, that just meant the world to her
yeah,
because like she has a sister and they're really close.
like like I said, I can't imagine like what it would have been like for their partners to just be sitting over on the side observing this, like they were making up for lost time, just about um just that time of separation, which I just, man, just separating families.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to ask you this very, very heavy question,
Ooh.
which has to do with separating families,
Ooh.
because
Mhm.
Nicole was told that she was put up for adoption for a better life.
Mhm.
Um, and now we see her biological family.
Mhm.
Do you think, or how would you even respond in terms of, is this a better life? Like, was that goal attained? Was the adoption the right choice?
So, adoptees get this question a lot. I don't know how closely you were watching the adoptee scene on the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
There were plenty of Olympians this season that were adoptees, which
Mm-hmm.
I thought was both cool, but also it was kind of like a little bit cringe given like how the overarching like narrative always just seems to hyper focus on the fact that they're adopted, not like their abilities as athletes or anything. It's just like the Canadian swimmer Maggie McNeil, I think is her name. Like she was asked about her adoption and she was just like, I just want a gold medal.
So we maybe want to talk about that.
But one of my friends gave me a go-to answer a little while ago that was, adoption doesn't guarantee a better life, it guarantees a different life. So there, like, I feel like just saying better life is just so, that's just too simple, because life is complex. And so like saying that it was a different life, because like adoption is trauma, so like being adopted is its own trauma, but like also people experience trauma within their families of origin and their birth families all the time. It's all trauma. It's different trauma, but it's all trauma. Technically we're all going through trauma right now with this pandemic, so that's another trauma.
Yep.
But so I don't necessarily like to say whether or not adopted life is a better life. For that reason, I just think it really oversimplifies it. But a lot of people really do like to collapse the adoption narrative into that simple, oh, this is a better life. So yeah, that was a long-winded answer, but
That was magnificent though.
oh, thank you.
Yeah, I like a different life, because in reality that's what Nicole has, like a different life. I don't know if you could say better, because at the end of the day a family was separated. So I thought that was magnificent.
Oh, thank you. Like even if someone tries to put it in terms of like, well, you have more access to resources, more access to education, more access to like X, Y, and Z, but just having access to resources doesn't guarantee a quality of life. I realize that's like, I'm coming from a very privileged place of saying that, because I do have a lot of privilege in my access to resources, whereas others might not. But like resources in terms of like physical resources, emotional resources, what other resources are we talking about? Like once you get past that like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, yay, social work degree. Once you get into the realm of like self-fulfillment and self-actualization, like I feel like it can really differ, just like traumas differ. Resources can really differ too.
Yeah, definitely.
Gotta give it up for our boy Maslow. I don't really know much about him personally, but I do know that he created the hierarchy of needs that we definitely still have shoved down our throats. So
definitely, it's that very critical, are the immediate needs taken care of, and then we can move up the pyramid and talk about other things, or up the triangle and talk about other things, but definitely used very much so in social work today.
Yep. What's really interesting is we don't really learn about Maslow himself. We just learn about his theory. What if Maslow is like, to put an anti-racist spin on this, do you think Maslow might have been racist? I'm gonna Google.
It's very possible.
I'm gonna Google because I don't even know when Maslow was alive. Is Maslow alive anymore? I don't. I'm pretty sure Maslow is
I
dead.
feel confident in saying no.
Maslow. He died in 1970.
Wow. So he was not even 30. Oh, never mind. Take that back.
He was what's 70 minus 8? 62. I can't do math. That is one stereotype that I will forever stand behind. I don't like stereotyping, but I will stereotype that social workers are bad at math.
Definitely in my college, a big draw to social work is that you only take one math class because it was liberal arts school, and it was like the lowest math class like necessary.
I at my college, I took a class called The Ideas of Math. We didn't even have a textbook. And I took the final while I was hopped up on pain meds after my knee surgery. And I still got an A in that class.
Wow, that sounds like my kind of math class. Math is just not my thing. I will say though, with policy, we had to take econ.
Yep.
And that required a ton of math. And there are like social work students who excel in math and decide to be empathetic and take social work. But no, as you can tell, these two social workers, math is a no.
Yeah. Did you take the asynchronous stats? Did you take it asynchronous or live?
I took it live.
Okay. I took it asynchronous. So fun fact about Columbia School of Social Work's grad school program, stats is pass fail, y'all.
That is wonderful news. Or I guess it was wonderful news.
Watch us get sued by Columbia or something. We were really hyping up the program.
That was a struggle. Statistics.
Yeah, I just remember sitting in my living room, looking at, like, I was so behind in reading, I just gave up. But I just remember looking at the exercises and just like sitting there being like, I'm so dumb. Oh my goodness. How did we get onto that? Oh yeah, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So he was born in 1908 and died right after the civil rights movement. So
Was he American?
yeah, he died in Brooklyn.
Wow. Okay.
Born in Brooklyn, died in California. Huh. Let's see. American psychologist. This is a black and white photo of him. But of Jewish and Russian descent.
Okay.
Okay, so he probably wasn't that racist if we're putting on a I can't speculate about like whether or not a dead guy is racist. So
right.
Let's scratch that.
I'm not actively seeing anything really race specific. So yeah, I don't want to speculate. I'm gonna hope he wasn't racist.
I mean, we also know that the social work and psychology education system is also very racist, like as a system. So he is a product of that system.
Yeah.
So what else was I was gonna say something. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah. Okay. So I think I sent you a text the other day. It was a screenshot of the NASW saying you shouldn't be paying for a racist education. And I like spit out my coffee at that because I was like, they put that on Facebook.
Yeah, you said, do you see any irony?
I just spit out my coffee and I was like, well, are you offering to pay for it?
Oh my. Oh my. I want to say they mean well, but that's not even like enough, you know?
Like knowing how much like the NASW just like what are we constituents like members.
I
I'm
mean
not a member.
members.
I don't pay dues.
I do not pay dues, but we could be members.
We could be members
If we paid dues, we would be members.
if we paid dues to the thing whenever we were students, we would have gotten a bigger deal on it. I remember that part. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, it doesn't really listen to its members in terms of like there are plenty of social workers of color that are like, hey, our system's racist.
Yeah.
We should do something.
It's actually in the nature of social work.
It is in the nature of social work. But oh my goodness, I feel like that is just so like I am a part of a network called the Asian American Mental Health Association. No, network of Asian mental, I forgot the acronym. Asian mental health, like I'm just gonna call it Asian professionals for mental health professionals, Asian mental health professionals. Anyways, my big question for you right now is something that I've been asked by white people before, but for spaces to be exclusively for one race, believing that like these like having these networks of like Asian mental health professionals, like do you think that is also racist if you are sectioning off different races within their own silos?
No, I don't think that's racist. Oh man, I think especially how do I want to approach this? I think when you have spaces that are specific to race, for example, but you can put it in different, it can be exclusive in different ways. I think, especially in like a very racist society, you need spaces where you feel very comfortable, where you're with your people, where you can just be. And so if you've got this space for Asian American professionals talking about mental health, then you're with your people.
Yeah.
And I get that there's so much information there. I get that. I'm sure there's a lot I could learn from that space, but that's not my space to be in. So I don't think that's racist. I think it's necessary in order to survive really in this very racist country, in this very racist world. Like we need our space.
Yeah, like I completely agree with that. The answer, what I was kind of, well, it's like the same concept whenever a white person accuses me of reverse racism.
For people listening, I just roll my eye.
That was such a great eye roll, by the way. But for me, I think the big takeaway from there is that we created these spaces for ourselves, whereas like racist segregationalists would segment us off into these silos without our consent, without our creation of it. Like we created these spaces for ourselves. There's a difference between us choosing to be amongst our people and someone choosing for us.
Yes. I think that's a great point. And one of my friends, major shout out to Reggie, put it in a great way. Like you need these spaces because your experience is different. In this example, because you're Asian American. So if white people have a different experience because they're white, then okay, like let me hear it. But lives are seriously made difficult because of your race, because of your ethnicity. And so, like, what are you supposed to do? Just like be alone and suffer when you can have this great network of people who really understand you. Ugh, there's no such thing, in my opinion, of racist being racist against white people. That is just oh my. In my opinion, that does not exist.
I definitely told you about this story before, but I got sent to the principal's office, or I was threatened to be sent to the principal's office one time for being racist against white people.
Oh my gosh. What did you do?
I screamed white people suck on a stage during theater. It was a projection exercise, and I have a very carrying and abrasive voice.
I don't like, that's not racist. I could see how would I could see how maybe that will ruffle some feathers with with like classmates, specifically white classmates. And if you approach it like that, like, hey, that hurt this person's feelings, like that could be very hurtful. That's one thing. But to say racist, like to add that tag to it, then that's when I'm like, you're wrong.
Yeah.
There's no such thing.
What was really funny is one of my best friends was in that class who's white, and she was like, yeah, white people suck. What happened was I got flagged by our teacher who was white. And yeah, I was just like, you told me to project something. I was projecting truth. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that argument is just so crazy. Like,
yeah,
I don't have the capacity to even want to address when people say things like that, like it's racist to have a people of color space, or if you say something about white people, you're being racist, because it's not a thing.
Like 17-year-old Hannah held no punches, but
clearly
I was one of, and that's also a thing. The performing arts and theater spaces are also very racist institutions. So I was in a theater class. I was one of maybe 3 to 5 people of color in there.
Wow.
Out of a class of 50. Yeah. I remember there was also a school in Texas, a theater program that got in trouble for doing Hairspray, but the theater program didn't have enough Black performers. So yep, you know where I'm going with this. Their idea was blackface.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
This is the 21st century.
And so things like this happen. And you get mad when people say, oh no, I need a specific space to be with my people because you did this. Literally, in order to survive, to feel okay, to feel normal. Normal is not what I want to say there, but just to be okay with being you in a world where that happens, and not just there. I need you to try and understand where I'm coming from.
And like there was an entire like debate over like, well, we only did it because there aren't enough Black kids in this program. Okay, why aren't there Black kids in this program? Like, what kind of a space have you made Black kids feel safe to be able to express themselves in your space?
Yeah.
Because they're not going to show up. People aren't going to show up in places where they're not welcome.
Yeah.
So like on top of that, like I know that like Broadway has like a ton of initiatives going right now too, because there aren't enough performers of color in Broadway. There's not enough diversity there. And so like that's why people were like freaking out about Hamilton so much. And that was in 2016.
Yep.
So like, if that is Broadway, like the top of theater, what's a tiny Texas town high school theater program gonna do?
Yeah, it feels simple. Like, if you don't have the students of color to do the musical, if you haven't put in the work, you don't get to do the musical.
Just don't do the musical.
It feels intuitive.
Nope, they are going to shoehorn into, oh my goodness, it was just so like, not even cringe, that like, even like, to do something like that just feels like it's not even cringe, it's a slap in the face, really.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Just thinking off the top of my head, I mean, like, being Black is not just the color of my skin. Like, it's how I speak, it's in how I move. Like, there's so many mannerisms you can't get, that you can't just, like, having the skin is not enough.
Yeah.
So the fact that you reduced it to that is also extremely offensive. Not you.
Yeah.
The people who did this.
No, this theater program, it wasn't my high school theater program, it was a different one. But also, for something just as like, for something as poignant as Hairspray too,
Yeah.
that was all about like integrating like the TV space and young people's spaces, like, and then they go and pull that.
Yeah. It's like, did you really get it? I don't think you did.
No.
Yeah.
Just so many things, but like, I do think that like having spaces of like where people of color can be with each other, like, I feel like those can be held almost as sacred, because there was so much, like, there have been so many spaces that have been to be frank, invaded by just not only just like violent people, but violent ideas, violent mannerisms. Like, having a space for ourselves, is, it can be healing. Yeah,
I definitely think so.
Whew. More rough topics.
How are you feeling, Hannah?
I'm looking at my plants and kind of wanting to just spend some time with them, honestly. You can't really see my table in front of me, but I just tore up my phone case, because I do that whenever I get fidgety and whenever like my brain starts going off. So like, I was one of those kids that was like super into fidget spinners.
Okay.
And I'll admit, fidget spinners came out when we were in college. So
I was gonna say, I think those were like recent, but I was just gonna continue with the visualization that baby Hannah like fidget spinners.
I had an internship at a junior high. We confiscated those all the time. Guess where they ended up?
I will agree. Like, it all these conversations tend to end in a very dark place.
They do. Maybe one day we'll figure out the secret to like how to end a podcast on a lighter note. But until then, I will see you next week.
Yeah, see you then.
Bye.